So I recently posted a picture of Jeff Bezos on my Instagram account highlighting the fact that Amazon has increased value in the last 165 days by $400 billion. And the floodgates opened up with comments. And everybody started saying, this man, Jeff Bezos, who's worth $150, $160 billion, doesn't pay his 563,000 employees well. They're on welfare, similar to what happened with Walmart. But the comment that I keep hearing over and over again that is an absolute cop-out from people is the following. You need money to make money. It takes money to make money. All of these people that like to hide behind the idea of that rich people started off with money. Here's a fact for you. Only 15% of millionaires in America inherited their millions of dollars. 85% are self-made. Matter of fact, having money is one of 7 ways of having equity. Today I'm going to share with you the other 6. So look, when we hear the word equity, we think about real estate. I have equity in a home. I have equity in a property. I have equity in stocks. I have equity in bonds. I have equity in cash. That's equity, right? We only think about equity as money. If the only source of equity you have is money, you are one-dimensional. Let me put it to you this way. If the only thing you have is money because somebody died in your family and left you $17 million and that's the only thing you have, and Mario has the other 6 elements of equity, long-term in the marketplace, there is no way in the world you have the same amount of value as Mario has in the marketplace. So having said that, your goal watching this is, as I go through the other 6, is to ask yourself, which one of these do I have? Because if you want to make yourself irreplaceable, if you want to make yourself the highest value in the marketplace, your goal is to be able to have as many of these 7 as possible. Not just one of the 7, which is money, but also the other 6. So having said that, let me get into the other 6 elements of equity. Number 2. So I want you to think about a son, a daughter just inherited $17 million, but this kid has been spoiled, 22 years old, never had a job before, lazy as hell. Dad died, mom died, they get the millions, right? They have no clue how to work. You know how quickly that money is going to disappear out of their hands? Let me give you another example of this. How many times have you seen somebody win the lotto? $58 million winner, $220 million winner. 3 years later, money disappears because they don't have the second part, which is sweat equity. Here's what happens when you have sweat equity. When you have sweat equity, you're not afraid of working 16-hour days for 6 months straight. You have a certain mindset, a certain thickness. Your skin is thick. You have a certain dogfight that you can't explain to other people. I can't give a 16-year-old kid $1 million, say, go to school to get sweat equity. You're not going to get it. I can't give a 28-year-old after they got a degree, let's just say they're very small, but they've never had a job, saying, I'm going to put $500,000 into you to go to this program to learn what real hard work's all about. You either have sweat equity or you don't. By the way, one of the 7 forms of equity is sweat equity. This is why sometimes a person with sweat equity who's hungry, wanting to go to the top, like this, they pass up a multimillionaire who's absolutely lazy. Number 3. So let me explain you the next one here in a way that probably will make sense to you. Go back to high school, okay? Think about the kid whose parents were very wealthy, and he would come to school in a 5 Series BMW, right? It's kind of like, oh my gosh, this kid, man, he's a nerd, not really cool. Nobody knows who he is, but he's got the 5 Series BMW. He always had the MJs, you know, the J's on, the 175 on. You're kind of like wearing used Sean Kemp like me, size 13. You're really size 13. You know who I'm talking about, right? But this kid who comes from a wealthy family always wanted to be part of the in crowd. That 22 friends who were tight, hanging out together on Fridays, going out, you know, with the girls, and everybody were like, oh, that's the cool crowd. They wanted this kid with the BMW, wealthy family, wants to be in that group, but couldn't make it in that group, even with his BMW. Why? That group has social capital. They have social and moral equity. There's a bond, right? Let me explain to you a little bit more. Say I get a group of 6 people. They've known each other for 8 years. They've fought, they're friends. They have something they want to build together, but they work very, very good together. I can't pay 6 other brilliant minds $10 million and say, I want you to have the same kind of morale as these other 6 people have. It's just money's not going to buy that morale. You either have it or you don't have it. To a lot of investors who come in and they look at a group, they can't find this often. They can't find a group that run well together. When there is something like this in the room that's called social and moral equity, let me tell you, it's one of the 7. Can't buy it. You either see it and you have it, or you don't have it. Number 4, here's another one for you. Let's just say I'm a business guy in the U.S., okay? And I want to go and invest into, I don't know, let's pick China. I want to go invest into a market in Central America that I think is going to come up. I want to go invest into South Africa. They're going through struggles right now, a recession, but I think they're going to come back up. I'm going to go buy some, stressed properties, right? If I go by myself and I don't know the culture of China, of South Africa, or pick a place in Central America, I don't have that equity. But if I take somebody with me who speaks the language of Mandarin, who lived in China for 22 years, who went to school there, knows everything, I need him more than he needs me. Because without him, I can't get into that community. Because what his equity is, culture and community. He speaks the language, he understands the culture. I don't. I could have $100 million. I need him. That's another form of equity. Number 5, here's another one for you. Say I got $17 million. I'm a rich guy. I got money. I got a lot of money, right? But I don't know the right people. And I meet this cat who's got all the right contacts in a community I'm trying to get into in Silicon Valley. I'm not a Silicon Valley guy. I'm an Austin guy. Maybe I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I want to get into Hollywood. Different communities, right? And I meet somebody. His name is Sean Parker. My name is Mark Zuckerberg. Sean Parker introduces me to a crowd that I'm not a part of. That crowd helps me build a multi-$100 billion company, and Sean Parker makes $1 billion, a couple $1 billion, because what Sean Parker had was the contact and the connections that I didn't have. I was a basic nerd in Harvard who was brilliant. Sean Parker was a cool cat who had the contacts and the connections. That is a complete different form of equity. That's why sometimes a Rolodex or the cell phone contacts, there's a lot of equity in it, even though it's not money. Number 6, so I want you to think about a kid who graduates out of high school, goes to college, and he decides to study this exciting topic of bonds for 15, 16 years. Can you imagine, like, you wake up today saying, I am so excited to study everything about bonds or stock market or all these data. Man, this excites me, right? Who in the right mind wants to do that? Well, somebody does. You know what you call that? Specialized skill. That is a form of equity, because a specialized skill needs a person with money. The person with money needs a person with specialized skill. Let me explain a little bit more for you. The movie Big Short, it's a story of Michael Burry, right? AKA Christian Bale plays the role. This is the guy that when he was a kid, a football player tackled him, his eyeball fell out, and he becomes fascinated with numbers. And he studies numbers, and he notices that something's happened with the subprime market. There's going to be a collapse here. And he tells his investors, this is a nerd, he studies numbers, he tells the investors, $2 billion, let's put in the market, let's buy everything short. What are you talking about? Yes, the market. Are you telling me the market's going to collapse? Yes, I'm a nerd, but I know it's going to collapse. We're going to go $2 billion in. He goes $2 billion in. Everybody thinks he's nuts, specialized skill, multi-billionaire. You know what happens? Billions are made. This specialized skill guy that was obsessed about studying numbers for years now has a net worth of $300 million. How did it happen? Specialized skill. Another form of equity. And number 7, let's say your name is Henri Charrier or Henry Charrier, right? And you, for the longest time, were living in Germany, and all of a sudden you get arrested, right? And you go to a prison called the Devil's Island. And anybody goes to Devil's Island, you psychologically lose it. They give you all this medicine. You go crazy. And you somehow, some way find a way to escape Devil's Island. And you make it back to the country, and you have all this intellectual property. Things you saved. Your name is Papillon. The writings, the articles, paintings, all of these things you collected together, and you say, I want to tell this story to the world, and you go to Hollywood. You produce a movie called Papillon. And the reason why you have equity is because you have intellectual property. That's another form of equity. By the way, when I'm talking intellectual property, I'm talking about you can own domains, there are 100 different domains, and you have a domain that somebody needs to buy one day. That's intellectual property. You have a script that you've written, took you 10 years to write, intellectual property. You have a patent, you have a trademark, intellectual property. You have an idea, intellectual property that meets with a person with money and other contexts, then we go out there and produce this product and we make millions together. So look, now that you know the 7 different forms of equity, you got to ask yourself, which of the 7 do you have yourself? Is it 2 of them? Is it 1 of them? Is it 6? Are you 7? Is it 4? What other ways can you increase your forms of equity to increase your value in the marketplace? By the way, Mario has produced a PDF for you to download. Click on the link below. You'll be able to download the PDF and ask yourself and score yourself on which of the 7 you have. And for those people who are watching this video and saying, Pat, it makes sense. Maybe I am using money as a cop-out, and I'm trying to find a way to say, this is why I'm not rich. This is why I'm not wealthy. If you agree with the concept talked about in this video, I want you to go on Twitter and tweet the following. If you think it takes money to make money, you are simply looking for a cop-out. And tag me. I want the world to understand this message that there are different forms of equity to attract money. It's not just money to make money. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. If you want to be part of the notification squad, click on that alert button right next to it. Any other comments, thoughts, comment below. Thanks for watching. Love you. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey, look at me. If you are still saying it takes money to make money, and that's your way to cop out, knock it off. Come on. Stop making excuses. Get out there and find one of these other 6 equities to have so you go out there and attract the people with money.